You know, usually when we picture a massive military campaign, there's this expectation of mass and visibility.
Right, you expect to see the supply line stretching to the horizon.
Exactly. The marching infantry kicking up dust, the heavy siege engines dragging through the mud. Conventional warfare is, well, it's loud. You hear an empire coming from miles away.
Oh, absolutely.
But the source materials we are unpacking today for our deep dive, they throw those conventional rules completely out the window. We're looking at a stack of notes and chapters from the story Chasing Death, specifically focusing on episode 31, The Reunion.
And it is such a compelling chapter.
It really is. Our mission today is to dissect a tactical landscape that is hanging by a single fraying thread. We are tracking a deposed royal family, stripped of their gold, their army, their titles, as they attempt to execute this absolute masterclass in asymmetric warfare to take back their empire.
And the contrast there between the sheer scale of their ambition and the absolute poverty of their resources, that is what makes this text so fascinating. The narrative throws us into this deeply atmospheric, high-stakes environment from the very first page.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's got this perfect late-night listening vibe to it.
Yes. I want you, the listener, to really picture this scene. Dim the lights if you can. We find this small, exhausted band of fugitives at a hazy frontier outpost trying to cross the border into Yemen.
The tension it's incredibly thick. I mean, it reads like that suffocating atmospheric pressure right before a massive thunderstorm breaks.
Just heavy.
Exactly. They're carrying a political secret that would trigger an immediate, devastating war if it's discovered by the wrong guard.
Right. And the central question driving our analysis today is how a group with zero capital and zero military force plans to dismantle an apex predator empire.
Right.
To understand the mechanics of that, we really have to look at the physical and emotional razor's edge these characters are walking. The border crossing scene perfectly illustrates the mindset you need when you have absolutely no safety net.
It really does. Because Zayn, the character who is guiding the Queen of Nineveh, is stopped by a border guard.
Yeah.
And he doesn't do what you'd expect.
He doesn't try to bribe him?
No, he doesn't plead or act, deferential. He snaps at the guard with this calculated, razor-sharp irritation, claiming the queen is merely his sick, maternal aunt traveling to Syria for treatment.
Which is such a brilliant move. I mean, Zayn is exploiting a psychological blind spot here, right?
Yes, specifically authority bias
Uh-huh.
and cognitive script disruption.
Oh, say more about that.
Well, that border guard operates on a very predictable behavioral loop. Ask questions, demand deference, assert control.
Right.
Zayn shatters that loop by projecting an overwhelming, impatient authority. He acts as if the guard is a minor annoyance, interrupting a vastly more important mission. By taking the offensive, he forces the guard out of the role of the interrogator.
And into the role of a subordinate who's just made a mistake. It's like a social DDoS attack. He overwhelms the guard's mental processing with so much aggressive confidence that the guard's defensive protocols just crash. It's like a Jedi mind trick without the Force.
Right. The guard actually stammers an apology. He says he was merely asking out of routine.
Unbelievable.
But the text notes what is happening in the periphery during this psychological maneuver, and is terrifying. Yurka, the warrior of the group, has his hand wrapped around the hilt of his sword.
Just waiting.
Yes. If Zayn's bluff had faltered for even a fraction of a second, Yurka was prepared to draw his blade and turn that outpost into an absolute bloodbath.
Which, of course, would have brought the wrath of the entire regional garrison down on them.
Exactly. The stakes are absolute. Picture the Queen of Nineveh sitting on her horse, holding her breath, suspended between the terror of execution and the faintest hope of slipping through.
It's so visceral. And when they finally clear the checkpoint, they don't just relax. They spur their horses into a continuous gallop for 4 days and 4 nights.
Yeah, the narrative really emphasizes the brutal physical toll of this sprint. They are outrunning the ghosts of Babylon, stopping only for the barest moments of recovery.
I try to imagine the sheer adrenaline required to keep the queen upright in the saddle for nearly 100 hours of hard riding. I mean, absolute physical exhaustion strips away conventional thinking. By the time they reach this secluded vineyard house in Yemen at midday, they are just running on fumes.
And that's when we get the reunion.
Right. The loyal Abyssinian slave, Kanu, who is working in the garden, sees the queen and just freezes in disbelief.
And the queen doesn't even wait for her horse to stop moving. She literally slides off the animal in a state of complete physical collapse.
Because her maternal drive overrides her physical limits. Her empire has been burned, Her husband was slaughtered by Nebuchadnezzar, but her first and only focus is her son, Prince Marut.
Yeah, they lead her down into the cool, dark shadows of a cellar, where she finds him recovering from his wounds.
That scene is so powerful.
It is that fierce, weeping reunion in the dark, dirt floor basement. It's the emotional anchor of the chapter. It grounds this massive, sweeping geopolitical conflict in raw human survival.
Right, but it also highlights their reality. They've outrun the immediate slaughter, sure, but as the adrenaline fades, the reality of their sanctuary sets in. They are royals, but they are hiding like common criminals in a cellar.
And this is a deliberate tactical choice. It's driven entirely by the geopolitical trap that Yemen represents right now.
Yeah, Connie's uncle briefs the queen on the local political climate, and it's bleak.
Very bleak. King Hammurabi of Yemen is completely terrified of a Babylonian invasion. Nebuchadnezzar didn't just conquer Nineveh, he put the city to the torch to send a message of total annihilation to the surrounding world.
A warning to everyone else.
Exactly. And Hammurabi's spies are telling him that Yemen is next on Babylon's list, so his survival strategy is pure appeasement.
Because he lacks the military infrastructure to repel them.
Right. His only play is to buy goodwill. If Hammurabi discovered that the Queen of Nineveh and her most famous commander, General Asher, were hiding within his borders, he wouldn't offer political asylum.
No way.
He would arrest them and present them to Babylon as a gift to prove his loyalty.
It's really easy for us as observers to label him a coward for refusing to protect a fallen monarch. But I want you to look at this from Hammurabi's perspective. He's a pragmatist staring down the barrel of an absolute superpower.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He is prioritizing the survival of his own citizens over some romantic, suicidal stand against Babylon. I mean, it's like hiding in the basement of a guy who is actively trying to become best friends with a mob boss who wants you dead. His appeasement isn't cowardice, it's a cold, calculated geopolitical calculation.
He is playing a very weak hand, the only way the board allows.
Huh.
But his pragmatism makes Yemen the most dangerous place on earth for the Nineveh royals.
Right, surrounded by a state apparatus that is highly incentivized to hunt them down.
Exactly. They cannot appeal to Hammurabi's better nature, and they certainly can't hide in that cellar forever. They need a proactive strategy.
Which brings us to the War Council. General Asher finally returns from the mountains.
Yeah, he's been out scouting hidden caves, reconnecting with fragments of their loyal soldiers. And he brings this brutal reality check into the room.
Oh, man, he really does. He outlines the math of their situation. He's like, look, we have scattered troops willing to fight, but we have 0 gold to pay them,
Right.
no weapons to arm them, and absolutely no siege engines. You cannot retake a heavily fortified, occupied city like Nineveh with bare hands, no matter how loyal your men are.
Asher is assessing the board through the lens of conventional military doctrine. In his mind, an army without logistics is just a mob waiting to be slaughtered.
Which makes sense for a general.
It does. But Zayn steps into this strategic dead end and proposes a paradigm shift that redefines the entire conflict.
Right. Zayn says, we aren't going to try to buy weapons or build catapults. Instead, we're going to use King Hammurabi's entire fully equipped army to fight our war for us.
He plans to manipulate the king of Yemen into marching on Babylon, all without Hammurabi ever realizing he's taking orders from the deposed royals hiding in his own territory.
But Asher immediately spots the critical flaw in using a foreign power as your primary weapon, which is the obvious tactical question. Even if we manipulate Hammurabi into driving Babylon out of Nineveh, what stops him from simply claiming the empty throne for himself?
Yeah, mercenaries and manipulated kings rarely hand over conquered territory out of the goodness of their hearts. Once a foreign army occupies a city, they become the new conquerors.
Exactly. So Asher demands to know how Zayn plans to guarantee Hammurabi's compliance after the battle is won. He actually asks Zayn if the plan is to kidnap Hammurabi's son and hold him as a hostage.
And the Zayn's response. It fundamentally alters the atmosphere of the text. He smiles and tells the seasoned general that he has no intention of taking a single person hostage. He intends to hold the entire kingdom of Yemen hostage.
Okay, I have to pause here because we really need to break down the logistics of that claim. How does one man, sitting in a dirt cellar with no resources and no official power, conceptualize holding an entire sovereign nation hostage? This goes so far beyond a standard kidnapping.
Well, it requires a profound mastery of systemic vulnerabilities. In geopolitical terms, a hostage doesn't have to breathe.
Wow, okay.
A hostage can be a vital trade route, a central water supply, the stability of the currency, or, an exclusive pipeline of critical intelligence. Zayn is operating on the principle of information asymmetry.
Meaning he knows things they don't.
Exactly. If you control the information that a paranoid king uses to assess threats, you effectively control the king. Zayn plans to engineer a scenario where Hammurabi's only viable path for his own survival happens to be the exact path Zayn wants him to take.
It's the ultimate geopolitical judo move. You don't meet an opponent's brute force with your own brute force, especially when you are vastly outweighed. You use their own momentum, their own weight, and their own paranoia to throw them onto the mat.
Yes.
Zayn is looking at Hammurabi's massive military infrastructure and his deep-seated terror of Babylon, and he's calculating the precise pressure points needed to turn those assets into weapons for Nineveh.
But this audacious claim forces the other characters in the room, and honestly, us as readers, to question the fundamental nature of Zayn's capabilities.
Right, because who can actually pull that off?
Yurka, the warrior who witnessed the border crossing, fully believes Zayn can execute this. He points to a previous unexplained incident at Avila, suggesting that Zayn operates with the favor of the gods, or perhaps even uses magic.
Magic. I mean, Yurka's mind cannot process Zayn's strategic foresight without invoking the supernatural.
Right. Ashur, of course, dismisses the talk of magic immediately. He's a tactician who deals in steel and logistics. He has no patience for superstition.
But the young Prince Marut, sitting up in his sickbed, is totally captivated. He looks directly at Zayn and asks a question aloud. Do you really know magic?
And Zayn offers this very smooth, polite deflection. He claims Yurka is just joking and states that any man of truth enjoys the grace of the great Lord.
Such a non-answer.
It really is. But when you review the resume the group recounts during this scene, it's easy to see why Yurka leans toward the supernatural.
Oh, the resume is wild.
The text outlines an astounding sequence of events. Zayn rescued the queen from Nebuchadnezzar's beasts. He healed the prince from fatal wounds in a cave, and he secured General Ashur's freedom from captivity.
And he didn't break Ashur out with force, right?
No, he cured the local governor of Cartagena of a severe illness, earned the position of royal physician, and used that unchecked access to liberate the general.
That resume is flawlessly constructed, and it forces us to ask, is the text presenting him as a literal supernatural being, or as the ultimate hyper-competent polymath? When someone possesses intelligence, medical knowledge, and psychological insight so far beyond the baseline of their era, their actions become indistinguishable from magic to the people around them.
You're basically describing Arthur C. Clarke's third law. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Oh, totally.
In Zayn's case, it is his advanced competence that serves as his superpower. In an ancient setting, advanced medical knowledge is the ultimate skeleton key to political power.
Because a trusted physician is the only person allowed to be completely alone in a room with a vulnerable, stripped-down ruler.
Exactly. Zayn recognizes that healing isn't just about saving lives. It is a structural exploit to bypass palace guards and armies.
Wow. Okay, so whether the characters view it as magic or just supreme strategy, the War Council concludes. And the theoretical planning has to translate into physical action. They have to descend into the belly of the beast.
Yeah, the group fractures to execute the different phases of the strategy. Ashur and Yurka head back out to the remote Red Hills to marshal the hidden loyalist troops. They're handling the physical, kinetic side of the impending war.
While the Queen, Prince Marut, and Kanu remain in the shadows of the vineyard to wait.
And Zayn departs alone for Sana'a, the capital of Yemen, which is a full day and night's ride away.
And his method of infiltration here is crucial. He doesn't ride into the capital as a warrior or a diplomat or even a traditional spy seeking out military targets.
No, he chooses the disguise of a humble merchant or healer. He has an address for an old, unassuming caravanserai run by a distant Abyssinian relative of Kanu. His plan is to set up a small medical practice in the lower districts and quietly build a reputation from the ground up.
Starting at the absolute bottom of the socioeconomic ladder to weave his way upward. And before he rides out, there is this quiet, incredibly telling interaction between Zayn and the Queen.
Right, the jewel.
Yes. She offers him a highly valuable jewel to finance his operations and secure his footing in the capital. And Zayn, firmly but gently, refuses the wealth. He tells her that his skills alone will generate the capital he needs. His ultimate goal isn't to accumulate gold, it's to infiltrate the inner circle of King Hammurabi's court.
Rejecting that jewel underscores the central theme of his entire strategy. A jewel is a physical liability. It can be stolen by bandits, it can be traced by spies. and it immediately marks the bearer as a target of interest. Zayn is discarding the archaic tools of power in favor of untraceable modern leverage.
The contrast between the Queen and Zayn in that moment is just fascinating. The Queen has spent her life operating under the old rules of empire. To her, power is synonymous with hoarded gold, royal bloodlines, and physical armies.
Right, visible power.
Exactly. But Zayn operates on an entirely different axis. He understands that true power is invisible. His capital is his skill, his manufactured reputation, and his eventual control over the flow of information into the king's ear.
A reputation as a miracle healer is an asset that opens doors that a chest of gold could never unlock. It provides unfiltered, intimate access to the elite class. They will invite him into their homes, reveal their vulnerabilities, and slowly become dependent on him.
And that dependency is the precise mechanism he will use to construct the trap around the kingdom.
Exactly.
When you look back at the massive shift in momentum we've tracked in this deep dive, it's staggering. We started with the suffocating terror of a border crossing, analyzing a desperate, ruined family fleeing the literal flames of a hostile empire. They were operating purely on the reactive, exhausted instincts of prey.
And we end with this meticulously calculated pivot into proactive, invisible warfare. They have transitioned from outrunning the sword to slowly, methodically taking control of the hand that wields it.
Zayn walking alone into the twilight toward a hostile capital, armed with nothing but his intellect and a medical kit. It is a profound image of strategic clarity.
It really is.
So think about the implications of that final image as we close out today's deep dive. I want you to sit with this. A single man, turning down a king's ransom in jewels, walking into the night to overthrow an empire, using the enemy's own paranoia as his primary weapon. If the deepest form of power isn't the gold hidden in a vault or the size of the army marching under your banner, but the invisible leverage you maintain over the fears and perceptions of decision makers, where do we see that playing out in our own world?
Oh, that's a great question.
Right. When you look at the architecture of modern influence in our economies, our data structures, our digital networks, how often do we mistakenly focus on the loud, visible clashes of brute force while missing the real shifts in control? Who are the people quietly walking into the center of the system, armed only with information and access, preparing to hold the entire structure hostage? Keep your eyes on the quiet architects of leverage. They're the ones actually moving the pieces on the board.